Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Gunther. I'm the president of the Downtown Pasadena Neighborhood Association, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to the DPNA's Mayoral Candidate Forum. Hope that you all enjoyed the expo. We think it was a really good reflection of the DPNA's mission and our values. Hey. Thank you, thank you. We promote a walkable urban lifestyle. We want a vibrant Pasadena, a city with thriving businesses, excellent arts, enduring architecture, good government, and active public spaces, and continue to work very hard and very successfully at accomplishing that. A couple quick notes of appreciation. We've had some very generous donors that I want to acknowledge. Kathy Black from Happy Trails Catering gave us a lot of the food, which was really great. And Happy Trails, if you don't know, is the coolest little, there's like this little background garden on Fair Oaks, across from Central Park, really well worth going there. The Altmans were very generous with food. We appreciate that. Pat Rohan, as always, was very generous with food, and Peggy Rogers as well. And of course, we cannot thank enough Mark Smutney, who, with the Pasadena Presbyterian Church here, basically gives us our home. So thank you. And of course, a big thank you to the candidates for their appearance tonight. I'm going to draw the candidates up now. We're doing this in ballot order based on the random drawing that's reported by the city clerk, yada, yada. To my immediate left, Alan Shea, followed by Don Morgan, Terry Tornick, Bill Thompson, Jackie Robinson, and Jason Harden. I want to start with a quick overview of the election. It will be held on Tuesday, March 10th. If none of the candidates receive a majority of the ballots cast, then there will be an election on April 21st between the two top vote getters. The winning candidate will take office on May 4th, serve a 4-year term. And for your convenience, if for some reason you're not a registered voter or you're looking for vote-by-mail information, we do have that available at the DPNA Community Connections kiosk, which was right as you entered the Gamble Lounge. So when we do the mingling part afterwards, please come by and get that for yourself. Two more little logistic notes. One, Jonathan Edwards is going to be in charge of the timer, and he has a very distinct system that he will now explain.
So each question is 60 seconds. When there's 10 seconds remaining, it should be 3 or 4 sentences. I'll give a nice tap with the wooden end. It's like such, and if the time is exceeded, we will proceed to the vote.
Okay, and then also, actually the 60-second questions will be the bulk of the forum tonight, the Q&A. There will be some 3-minute opening statements, and we're going to proceed in ballot order and then shift down when we get into a new set of questions and so on. All right, so let's get to it. The candidate opening statements, 3 minutes each. About 4 weeks ago, I think we all began communicating about this in terms of what the expectations were. And the candidates were provided, and then we reinforced the same set of written instructions, which I will read to you now. At the DPNA, we see our vote as a hiring decision. No offense, but we are not interested in your standard stump speech. Rather, we want to understand how you respond to our vision of Pasadena's future. You've just had the past hour to explore that vision from multiple perspectives: parklets, Pasadena passages, connecting Pasadena, complete streets, land use advocacy, etc. So your assignment here in the opening statement is citing those conversations that you've had this past hour. Tell us who you talk with and what you learned. Tell us, as mayor, what your top 3 priorities would be for downtown Pasadena and why. And then lastly, what is it about your background that makes you well suited to achieve those goals? No, 3 minutes each for the opening statement. So 3 minutes. There was a side comment here about it. Not 60 seconds, 3 minutes. So let's begin with Alan Shea.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us this evening on this wonderful occasion. My name is Alan Shea. I am a product of Pasadena, a product of PUSD, a former PCC student, USC graduate, law school graduate. I own my own consulting firm, real estate firm, 35 years on Lake and Cordova, and I love Pasadena. I believe in Pasadena and the vision that is laid out before us this evening because I think it offers us the future. Also, with my background in real estate, I've done a number of projects in development, and I understand the numbers, the vision, and the timetable, as well as the consequence that we may have to consider to get the end results. So I believe that I have the expertise, the information, certainly the experience. As of late, I have been elected as the Vice Chair of Pasadena City College Oversight Committee, which we've just recently completed the Art Center. We also completed other projects within PCC under budget, on time, as well as a Vice Chair Commissioner here in Pasadena, serving the Northwest Commission areas, I should say, or the Northwest community area, to make sure we can resolve problems with development. Last but not least, I'm a real estate broker that's involved with the local government committee, which we really work hard to make sure we create partnerships and an understanding of development as well as future growth issues here in Pasadena. Thank you.
I'm sorry. So you started at the bottom of the three things we were looking for, which is great in terms of your background. What I didn't get was a sense of sort of what struck you, what conversations did you have, what struck you in particular that you would consider to be a top priority for downtown were you elected mayor?
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm glad he gave me that clarification. What my focus would be as mayor is really sustainability of businesses here in Pasadena. As a result of going through 3 recessions and being in business, I see the flight of businesses leaving Pasadena from Paseo to South Lake, because my office is on Lake and Cordova, as well as in Old Town. And until we find a formula that can create sustainability, we can anticipate we're going to see that in the next recession. But we have to be ahead of the curve here, and that's going to take people who are going to be aware of that possibility, and I believe that we have an approach tonight that we can explore. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Don Morgan.
First of all, Greg, thank you for hosting. I have to tell you, and all of you who are members of this Residents Association know this well, that you have the best organized coordinator, I think, of anyone. And I only know that because we've had so many emails about various debates over the course of this election, and Greg was by far the most thorough and sent the most information. It's hard to imagine a prettier place for us to talk tonight, so thank you for hosting us. Someone asked me, a few people asked me in the other room, you know, why are you running for mayor? And you know, I took you on your word and really didn't prepare for a stump speech, but you know, that question sort of led me very quickly to what we looked at in the other room, which was, you know, the answer is, the reason I'm running for mayor is exactly the type of projects we all just looked at. And an hour wasn't enough time, was it, to really look at them? But, you know, they are so perfectly representative of what we have the opportunity to do in this community. The types of innovative, exciting, new urbanism type projects that can really honor our heritage as a community, be connected to what we love about this community in terms of, you know, a lot of our historical features, but also do some really neat things to build a community that brings us together. I teach, I've taught new urbanism at USC as part of my function in the public policy school, so that's one of the hats that I wear, which is why this stuff is, of course, so interesting to me. The other hat that I wear is as a fundraiser and as someone who builds partnerships between nonprofits and public agencies and businesses to solve local problems. And so, you know, the other piece that really struck me, I thought, tonight was how practical you are in the types of projects that you're talking about, and realistic in terms of how we're going to pay for them, how we're going to implement them, how we're going to get adequate feedback from our community so that we're doing things that people are really enjoying and happy with. You know, there is such a huge opportunity for private investment in almost everything we saw, whether it was parklets or the tram or even looking at bike lanes. There's engagement with the vendors who benefit from us creating walkable streets, streets where you can ride your bike, streets where people aren't driving their cars down the road as if it's still the the Route 66 going 40 miles an hour, right? And those goals are exactly what we need to pursue as a community so that we do have a really exciting walkable area to enjoy. And that's a lot of what I really loved. I also loved that you can weave those various posters together into one comprehensive plan for what we want to do to be a model for the rest of the country on how to take the best of what we've done for a very long time and continue to do it and move it forward. The pieces that I loved, the most, and what I think the mayor has such a huge opportunity to do certainly is, the tram going east-west on Colorado and north-south on Lake, the parklets, and again, just the pedestrian-friendly nature of it all. And I have to say, I'll steal something you just told me, which was very profound. Is that the loud one? I'll just finish with this. I asked one thing the mayor can do to make this stuff happen, and he said, talk about it. Talk about it, right? And that's what the mayor does. The mayor promotes the best of what we have the potential to do, and that's what I want to do as mayor, is to really be the chief promoter of programs exactly like you just described.
All right. Thank you very much. Terry Tornick.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone that took the time to come tonight, as well as the organizers. For me, coming to this event tonight was really coming home to sort of the new Pasadena. I have the good fortune of being one of multiple city council people who represent the downtown district, which is a subject that's sensitive to some people here. But I've taken advantage of that opportunity in terms of participating in each and every one of the discussions depicted on the boards that are out in the other room. And during the past 16 months that I've been walking the city, talking to voters in every district, what I've discovered, and what I think the greatest challenge for us and the priority that needs to be addressed, is that on a lot of these issues that are depicted here tonight, there isn't really consensus. There's a wide diversity of opinion about how much development is too much development, how far we can go in terms of intensifying development without losing the essence that people love about Pasadena. What should the development look like? How much is too much? What are the traffic implications, et cetera, et cetera. So I think my first priority, I'm not sure this is in the right sequence, but my first priority would be to try to build that consensus, to try to understand how we can develop in a way that suits Pasadena's needs, not just the developers' needs, but meets our community's needs. And I think that's achievable. On the parklets, when I presented it at my district meeting in District 7, people seemed to like it, and yet there were some people that found it objectionable. At Gene Masuda's district meeting in District 4, there was tremendous opposition to it. Part of that is lack of information, and so I think we can do a lot better. Another issue that was depicted out there was the issue of advocacy about design. The way I started my career on the city council was in litigation against the city over the IDS project. And that was kind of a bold stroke, not one I was happy about, but one that resulted in a change, I think an important change in the way we do environmental analyses in Pasadena, and frankly in a much better project that's emerging on the corner of El Molino and Colorado today. The Passages project, which in some ways is the most complicated piece that was depicted, David Wolf's initiative, who's here tonight, has two pieces. One talks about walkability and making linkages downtown, but the other piece, which should be incorporated in all of the specific plans that we're about to amend, but the other piece has to do with changing the way we plan in Pasadena. So my third priority is doing bottoms-up planning where citizens drive it rather than City Hall. And I think that the Connections project that was also depicted about the freeway stub is the first example that we can point to of this bottoms-up, citizen-driven planning effort.
Great, thank you. Bill Thompson.
I'd also like to say thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to be here. I hope that doesn't fall down here as I'm leaning on it. And to be able to share some thoughts with you as we go through the evening. Carol and I have lived in Pasadena for many years, and we've been very much involved in our city and our community ever since that time. We're passionately committed to Pasadena, and I have an extensive record of involvement and leadership. I've served as the mayor of Pasadena. I represented District 7 as its council member for 16 years. Now I'm an elected trustee at Pasadena City College. I also have the honor of serving as the president of the Pasadena Educational Foundation, the oldest educational foundation in the state of California. We've been around 43 plus years. Over that time, we have contributed in excess of $140 million to PSD and to our public schools. In my professional life, I'm an intellectual property litigation attorney with a full-time practice. I litigate patent and other intellectual property cases, copyright, trademarks, trade secrets, in jury and court trials, and also before the International Trade Commission back in D.C. In fact, I have a trial scheduled to come up here in federal court in Los Angeles in a couple months' time. So Pasadena faces many challenges, many opportunities. We're not Arcadia, we're not Glendale. We don't have the retail economy that those places have. We have real needs. Our economy in Northwest Pasadena, South Lake Avenue, drive up and down, look at the vacancies that exist there. East Colorado, the same thing. Now, we also have issues of public education and working with PUSD, the school district, PCC, my connections there, PEF, and the entire community. We can continue to do a very good job of addressing that. We started a Pathways project and a dual enrollment project at PCC, working with PUSD. We've got connections with Cal State LA to provide transfer opportunities. We're working with the University of La Verne to achieve the very same thing. So my record of civic involvement demonstrates I have the experience and leadership ability, the style and the temperament to get things done. I work effectively with our citizens to reach consensus, then we go out and achieve results. Some examples are the old Pasadena. We made the decision to spend public money to build parking structures out there. Not a very popular decision, but with no place to park, no one's going to go there. The Aquatic Center, I was able to help get money to create that. Old Pasadena, I said, One Colorado, I worked with then Senator Pete Wilson to get the federal money to do the work on that. So the Langham Hotel and the One Colorado project itself is one thing to go. So I looked at your connections out there, connecting Pasadena, and also the complete streets. I was a part of the workshops dealing with connecting Pasadena, and very much enjoyed that opportunity and what I learned from it, along with Mr. Gunther, who was I think one of my colleagues on our team.
Thank you, Bill. And I think that I get a real clear understanding from what you're saying here about your background. I want to give you an extra little slice of time, if you'd like, to give us like your 3 priorities for downtown, if you'd like.
Well, I think number one has to be working on our vacancy rates, whether it be South Lake Avenue or Northwest Pasadena or East Colorado. We've got to be more competitive. We've got to get our city staff where they work with the community, work with developers, work with small business people, make them invited, make them want to come here, not have to fight to get answers to routine questions. I think, again, education is certainly a major issue. And as I mentioned before, with the connection and the experience I have, we can get the entire community working together to do a better job addressing our needs of all of our children in Pasadena. The final thing, too, is I would work with the ideas that are exhibited in connecting Pasadena and the completion of the streets, that type of thing. We want to make the downtown area more walkable, more enjoyable, more livable, and those are the 3 things I would focus most on. And most importantly, I think you have to be able to work with people to get them to work together, to agree on what has to be achieved, and to be able to work together to get to that result.
Okay, thank you for taking a second pass there. Jackie Robinson.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you my experience and the skills that I believe makes me the best candidate to be mayor in the city of Pasadena. Just a little bit about my background. I've lived in Pasadena my entire life, 36 years. I've been a member of the City Council for the last 8 years and the last 2 as Vice Mayor. As I was going through the exhibits that you included, I selected 3 of them that I think kind of encompasses what my actual platform for mayor is. And I think a lot of the vision and issues that you have had on the forum can apply to the entire city. I spoke to a number of people, and I apologize, I did not write down everyone's names, but I kind of wrote down some themes. And so with regard to the question about what would my top 3 priorities be for downtown, and as I said, I would extend this to all of Pasadena. I think the number 1 is keeping Pasadena special. I was speaking to Karen Wingard, actually, and she mentioned that, you know, her biggest as I was going about the room, I was asking everyone, as a downtown resident, what is your major concern? And she mentioned keeping Pasadena special, and I think that's something that extends and that reaches across the entire city. Pasadena is a very special place. We're all here for a reason, and there's a lot of wonderful things going on in this city, from our preservation of both buildings and history to, you know, the abundance of green space that we have, to the diversity that we have amongst the people in Pasadena. And so with regard to downtown specifically, there are, of course, unique things to downtown, including the fact that the idea is you want to get people out of their cars and walking through downtown in a way that they feel safe, and keeping the independently owned small businesses that are so unique to downtown here. And so keeping Pasadena special is my first priority. Secondly, when I was at the Complete Streets table, one of the things that stood out to me was kind of the motto of, or one of the mottos of the Complete Streets movement, which was Vision Zero, and that was that no loss of life is acceptable. And I understand that that means motorcycle and traffic-related deaths and people feeling safe, whether they're walking, biking, riding, using public transportation, or in their cars. And I would extend that to the entire city as well, because we have to attack the amount of gun violence that we have in the city. And it's not something that everyone talks about, but it's something that's very personal to me as council member for District 1 and council member in Northwest Pasadena. The third priority that I would have for downtown and the rest of the city is for, through the Passages program, I really admire all the work that's been done to try to recognize the 100th anniversary of that movement here in Pasadena, and the effort to make destinations and increase walkability is one that I think needs to be done from east to west and north to south. And with that, we have to have destinations throughout the city that people can go to within their neighborhoods in order to get people out of their homes and activating sidewalks, and that's what I've done as a city council member for District 1 with the passage of the first ever Lincoln Avenue specific plan. We're seeing the effects of that now with businesses that are coming into the district.
You're going to have to call time.
Okay. Under new guidelines that are increasing walkability.
What about call time?
I was trying to finish my sentence. So thank you.
Thank you.
I was concluding my sentence.
And actually, well, there'll be plenty of time to talk, to explore those topics. So thank you. Jason Harden.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the DPNA and Greg Gunther for hosting this event. I would also like to commend you guys.
It's a big group. It is not Greg Gunther. I want to be clear about that.
But as I was saying, I'd like to commend you guys as well for the level of effort and involvement you put into your community. What you do is it's a great role model for the rest of our neighborhoods, and it shows what you can accomplish if you guys work together and pay this much attention. And on one of the exhibits, I saw a quote, and I don't remember it word for word, but it says if you raise the level of involvement of the community, you get exemplary results. And I believe that you guys do that, and I commend you for that. A couple of things that I love from the expo is the complete streets. I see that Old Town is very beautiful, but I can see the potential in applying the Complete Streets Act to Old Town, and as well as the rest of our community. It's valuable everywhere, It's needed everywhere, and it just adds to property value everywhere in Pasadena. I love the Pasadena Passages initiative. I love the fact that you guys figured out how to connect downtown Pasadena all the way from South Lake to the Norton Simon Museum. And that connectivity will help businesses. It would help create a walkable city. And I'm a big fan of walking. I walk everywhere. I'm a big fan of public transportation. I use everything from Gold Line to Uber. So I'm a big fan of everything that's involved with the walkability and public transportation and things like that. As mayor, I want to get rid of the tale of two cities concept. I believe that we are one city. We just have to act like it. I want to kind of bridge the gaps, whether they be socially, economically, and just bring our city together and have everybody included, have everybody feel they matter. Because I think that if we do come together, we can create a lot of opportunities for each other. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to go over my time.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all.
You can clap.
Okay, let's move into the Q&A, the forum. The larger community has submitted a number of questions via Facebook. I don't have time to acknowledge everybody here by name, but actually I ran into a lot of people over in the expo who did participate, and I want to really thank everybody who submitted a question. It was really, it was helpful and enriching for us. We curated the questions and kind of distilled them into 6 different themes reflecting our key areas of interest. So we've got questions around land use, we've got questions around sustainability, we've got questions around economic vitality, and so on. Each group of questions will be posed by a DPNA board member. For each question, the candidates will have 1 minute to answer. We tried to make these sort of concise, bite-sized pieces. And we've also worked to include questions that aren't so much about how you stand on a particular issue, but rather questions that are designed to help us better understand who you are as a person. So here we go. I want to start with Jonathan Edwards, DPNA past president. Take it away, Jonathan. And we'll go, this first question will be for Mr. Shea.
All right. Remember, answers are 60 seconds. Question number 1. We hear a lot from the candidates about protecting the neighborhoods from development. In reality, there are very few projects planned directly in any of the purely residential neighborhoods. Rather, they are in the central district, where we are now. We in the DPNA see development as an opportunity, if it's done well, to repair the urban fabric and to create economies of scale for transit and commerce. Good development is something to be encouraged, not something to be protected from. How do you explain this apparent disconnect?
Mr. Shea.
Well, I think it starts with education. When you have a community that has resided in their property for 30, 40 years, and they come to a point in life where they see a lot of changes, that in itself brings forth challenges and what they see in their city. I believe that if the development conforms to a unique urban lifestyle that could complement what is already in the communities that you're looking to develop, especially here on below Colorado, I think it can be done. But I think first and foremost, the education aspect of it is crucial. I think you also have to get into reframing the conversations about what quality of life is going to be impacted. Is it going to be too much traffic? Is it going to be too much noise? Is it going to make you feel claustrophobic? All these things is what I've learned when I walk the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
It's a great question, and part of the reason why I think it's so good is that it really helps us define what the mayor's job is as very distinct from the city council's job. Of course, the mayor is one vote amongst 8, but the mayor is also designed, we purposely set up our charter for the mayor to to be the person setting the agenda and our goals as a city. And this is a huge part of that, right? I mean, you know, for us to imagine that downtown is this area totally disconnected from the rest of our neighborhoods makes no sense at all. We all have a vested interest in a downtown that is integrated into our entire full community. The best work that you're doing on the land use advocacy is really being our representatives of that and making sure that that which is being built down here is very much fitting with the fabric of our community. I live next door to Kathy Phelps, and a lot of you know her as, you know, a steadfast defender of the fabric of our community. And I asked her what she thought about these things, and she loved them, and that's to your credit. So the mayor's job is to create conversations to ensure everyone feels comfortable with that.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Jonathan, point of clarification, you're doing it at the 60? So, or is that it?
First bill at 50 seconds, and
okay.
the second bill at 60 seconds.
All right, good. Thank you.
Does that mean I get 4 more seconds? No, just kidding.
You could.
I'll save that for next time.
These are like
Thank
rollover minutes.
Thank
right?
you, yes.
Mr. Tornick.
I think that most of the opposition that's entailed in that question relates to fear of change. And I think that when part of the problem that we have is that development tends to come in surges. It comes sort of all at once. And people feel like they're being inundated. So that part of it is just the intensity of development as it reflects in the real estate cycle. I think the premise is a little bit faulty in that there are some adjacency issues. It's not purely development downtown that has no physical impacts on adjacent property. I got back involved in city business because someone built a 3-story condo looming over my backyard. And that's a problem that is reflected in other parts of the city, on North Lake Avenue and a variety of other locations as well. I think the third problem is design. I think if we were more successful with some of the design of the new projects, there'd be less resistance. And finally, of course, there's the perennial favorite, which is traffic. And people do pass through downtown, whether they live adjacent to downtown or not, and they're concerned that they're going to be gridlocked.
Great, thank you. Mr. Thompson.
Well, traffic certainly is an issue in residential neighborhoods. I think everybody wants to be certain that they're safe, their children are safe, that it's a great place to raise your family, and that you can go out, walk the streets in the area, and be safe. And so that's a real concern. I need to go back and say one thing, too. The mayor does not set the goals for the city. The mayor works with the city council and the public to set the goals. You have to have agreement on what it is you want to do and then work together to achieve those goals. If you don't do that, then you're going to have just disconnect and nothing effective will happen. So I think what you're talking about here in terms of modifying the downtown, making it more pedestrian friendly, making it more livable, and as we understand that term, is a good way to go. But as was pointed out, it does potentially have an impact on residential neighborhoods, and that cannot be ignored. They must be worked with as well to be part of the solution and working together to achieve those solutions.
Great, thank you. Ms. Robinson.
I'm going to begin by also respectfully disagreeing with Mr. Morgan. The mayor does not set the agenda and goals for the city, and we've been lucky that Mayor Bogaard has led so in a collaborative way, and experiencing working with him alongside him, I can say that he makes it his priority, and I will continue to as well, to seek the advice and the concerns of the council members as it respects to individual issues in their district. I think sometimes we forget that council members are serving in particular districts because they live there 24/7, and they have an opportunity to interact with the constituents in that district on an everyday basis. I believe the question was about the dichotomy between how we are an urban city, but also trying to preserve what makes us special and unique. And for me, I think one of the things, especially as regards to traffic, is that we have to remember that Pasadena is not, I think sometimes Pasadena is considered that we're supposed to solve all problems, because I think we do a fairly good job as at least attempting to resolve things that should be regional problems, things like traffic, which is a regional issue, things like affordable housing, which is also a regional issue. The end.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harden.
With population growth, development is inevitable. So I think the disconnect comes from the lack of people believing that they have input in the development. If we can communicate that folks do have input at what people bring into the community, that they can decide how the building looks, that they do have input on how the building looks, how it functions, how it plays a role in the community. If they feel that they have input, there will be more positive development. There will be more development that adds to the community instead of takes away from it. And I think it's just a communication that people need to know that they have a say.
Great. Thank you very much. One more question, right? Second question from Mr. Edwards.
From the perspective of downtown specifically, how do you see the proposed 710 tunnel? In short, are you for it, against it, or you're still undecided? And if you are against it, tell us specifically what you're going to do to prevent it from happening.
Begin with Mr. Morgan.
So I have to say, first of all, it turns out our charter does say that the mayor sets the priority for our city and sets the agenda for the council. But the mayor doesn't do that without talking to the community and creating a lot of agreement on what those priorities should be. I'm not proposing we have a dictator in the mayor's office. I think the mayor needs to sit down and set ambitious goals, set strategies for addressing important things like the 710 freeway. We've been dealing with this thing for 45 years. Clearly we have an opportunity, I think, hopefully with this next EIR where hopefully we can finish it for good. And I will say I'm categorically against the 710 freeway in any way, shape, or form. And I just recently met with Joanne Knuckles, who's been leading the No on 710 charge for 45 years. And I told her, Joanne, I'm opposed to it, probably not for any of the reasons you are, but I just think spending $10 billion on a freeway, on a tunnel that none of us want in this town, or not a lot of us want in this town, with huge impact, doesn't make sense when we're dealing with this as a state with water issues and energy issues and education issues. So in terms of what we do, we need to be working in partnership with the other regions or the other communities around our region so that we are presenting one voice to fight against it and using great solutions like the design the ditch to provide alternatives.
Okay, great. Mr. Tornick?
I'm opposed to the tunnel because, and particularly as it relates to the downtown area of Pasadena, because it won't solve the problem that it's purportedly going to solve, which is to remove surface traffic from our streets. In fact, the way it's designed in terms of the ramp configuration, it would make traffic at Lake Avenue completely impassable. I think the way to prevent it is to settle on an alternative that would be preferable to the tunnel. I urge the city to form a task force to come up with a Pasadena solution that would be a preferred alternative, and that task force is working. They met just last week again. My guess is that there will be some transit and some modest street improvements involved as the preferred alternative, and I think by putting the city on record in favor of something, rather than just opposed to something and working collaboratively with the communities that surround us, we can have some impact on stopping this tunnel.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
The estimated cost for the tunnel is about $1 billion per mile, so the tunnel is never going to happen unless somebody with a lot of money writes a check, which isn't going to occur either. There are real issues for the tunnel, environmental issues. You're going to have air vents there for the trucks to get rid of the air, et cetera. That will not go over well with neighborhoods. That's not a practical solution at all. I think what we have to do is look at things, and we had these designing a ditch workshops that were put on over at the Maranatha School in the old Ambassador location, and there we talked about things like making the overpasses, for example, pedestrian only, or pedestrian and bicycles. So there are things we can do to address those, and those need to be explored too. We need a complete light rail out to the Bob Hope Airport, need to complete the green line from the end of it out to LAX. In the past, I've served as the president of the Los Angeles County Division of the League of California Cities, and I have relationships locally that we can help work on that.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson?
I am opposed to the tunnel option for completion of the 710 extension for the reasons cited previously that include the environmental and health impacts, as well as the issue that I believe is the main reason why there is a push to complete something, which is traffic. As I said earlier, traffic is a regional issue, and in the case of a tunnel, what would happen is people would opt not to get on the tunnel and instead go to our surface streets, which at this point, our surface streets are already full, and we can see from the impacts of the extension of the 210 freeway that now, even though it was designed to carry more cars, after 2 p.m., essentially, you cannot get on the 210 freeway going out east. And so I believe that the best option for Pasadena at this point is to continue to study some of the other options that are on the table that include the hard rail and the light rail options. We do need, as I said, it's a regional issue, and we do need a way to get goods from the port to wherever they're going. We do need a way for people to have multiple modes of transportation options. And so I believe that we should, as mayor and as a city council member, from this point on, I am going to choose to advocate, write letters, do whatever I can, and use the voice that we have as a city and as with the support of the community behind me to advocate against this tunnel option.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Harden?
I object to the tunnel for countless reasons. I'm sure we all know what they are. I also believe that with the EIR report coming in with the results, we'll be able to substantiate our claim that it is not viable for our city. I also believe that it's not going to solve any of the problems that exist that it's supposed to solve. We're still going to have more traffic, we're going to have debris, we're going to have safety issues. And like I said last night, this being California, I would not drive in a tunnel that long and that far. But how I would oppose it, I would oppose to its cost. You know, there are all kinds of ways that we can keep it from happening. We don't have to conform to its enormous costs, its safety issues, and I believe that if we come together as a city, we can stake our claim and that it won't happen.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Shea.
Well, thank you. I oppose the 710. I think it's already been proven that it's not a feasible approach, but I do believe that after tonight's exhibits that there is a sound alternative that we can consider with connecting Pasadena, starting from the vision that was pointed out from the freeway connection to California Boulevard, and utilizing the current existing infrastructure that we have in place that we're not using right now along the 210, and utilize that to transfer traffic, especially during the high peak time. We need to be realistic about how to use alternative methods to deal with the traffic. I've walked the district almost every day to see how heavy the traffic is. It is imperative that we use what we have here. I think truly tonight with the connecting Pasadena, that is a sound alternative we can utilize and move forward for other challenges we're going to have with transportation. But let's start with what we have and dismiss our concerns about the 710.
Great. All right, thank you very much. I now want to introduce DPNA board member Marcia Rood, who will pose a couple of questions around land use and development.
Good. Thank you and good evening, everyone. Pasadena is known for its sense of place and being special among LA County cities. In real estate, it is called having great location, location, location chops. In your view, how can this sense of place be protected while fostering economic development?
That question is being posed to Mr. Tornick first.
First, I would say that it's location is one of the things, but I think it's location, timing, and timing based on my experience. But in terms of the way to protect the sense of place while not stifling development, I think the critical dimension of that is following the rules. Pasadena has a very well-developed set of land use principles, regulations. I spent some time on those as planning director and then on serving on the planning commission. When we get into trouble is when we start to do sort of one-off decision-making that's not consistent with the whole public process that we've evolved. We spend a lot of time with our citizens at hearings and commissions and developing specific plans. Then someone comes to town with a shiny new thing and says, you know, those are nice plans, but it doesn't really quite fit my needs as a developer. And suddenly, whoop, the regulations vanish and we do everything we can to accommodate the developer. So I think the way to preserve the critical sense of place and really preserve value and opportunity in Pasadena is to pay attention to the rules that we've adopted.
Mr. Thompson.
Well, two examples of projects locally, which this organization is very familiar with, that I think exemplify what not to do, are the Hyatt Place Hotel, the old Macy's building, the proposal for that, and then along the Parsons property at Walnut and Fair Oaks Avenue. Again, you've got certain criteria that apply, and those ought to be adhered to with very, very rare exceptions brought and supported in those instances by overwhelming, compelling evidence to do that. So that hasn't happened, as I understand it, in either of those instances, and that's not the way to go. We need the proper type of development. Again, I would emphasize retail because that brings money in. It also creates jobs. We need to reach out to small businesses. The mom and pops are going elsewhere. The chains are beginning to take over to the extent that they take over, and we don't end up with an abundance of vacancies as we currently have.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. I think we need to remember that economic development does not just mean building new things or renovating old buildings. Economic development is a wide range of issues that include safer neighborhoods, thriving businesses, being business and customer friendly. There's a number of complaints that I get on a very regular basis to my council district from small businesses, businesses in Old Town, from customers and consumers of our city, visitors to our city, that we are being too heavy-handed with things like ticketing, like being very hard on businesses that have code enforcement issues that they need to resolve. And so I think we need to look at economic development as a much wider range of issues that will encourage people to not just visit Pasadena, but live in safe neighborhoods and being able to do things that attract people to visit Pasadena, but also allowing them to stay here and want to come here.
Mr. Harden.
Well, Pasadena being a world-famous city, we attract a lot of attention. We attract a lot of businesses, tourists, and developers as well. I believe that we can preserve some of the things that we have. Since it's a small city, we don't have a lot of new space, you know, that we have things that we want to protect, and there's not a lot of room for development. But when those opportunities do come up, we have to be involved. Like I said, we have to attend these meetings. We have to encourage others to attend these meetings so we can keep our input in how these things are brought about and how they coexist with the things that we already want and like and preserve, and that protects the, that reflects the beauty of Pasadena in our own identity. And Pasadena is a special place, and we want to keep it that way. And that's how we do it. We become more involved. We get others involved. It's not just you showing up to those meetings. How many people do you represent, and how many people will you bring with you to those meetings? Because it's the strength are in numbers. And if we all participate, we can get a lot done for all of us and for the benefit of the city.
Mr. Shea.
Well, I think the land use issue is crucial for Pasadena. As someone who's a real estate broker and developer, I know essentially the essence is how do we create sustainability? We must create sustainability by compatibility of our communities, as well as making sure we're bringing the appropriate or the competent individuals into how we're going to develop this. Great models that we've seen around Southern California we can learn from is the Grove, Glendale Galleria, Americana. I work closely with individuals involved in those projects, and they share with how they keep those projects functioning and sustainable. Sustainable must happen. We need small businesses to stay here, which will also add economics to our community, jobs to our community, and that is really where the vision and the secret to make Pasadena the next city for stability of businesses.
Mr. Morgan.
We do have code in place, obviously, to protect the best of our city, but placemaking isn't just about building a wall around our community and papering it with the code. It's about taking some of the dead zones that we have in this city that have been so well documented on the DPNA website and really doing work to better modify those so that they complement our city, particularly in areas like South Raymond, South Fair Oaks, South Arroyo, where we have a lot of areas that are skipped that most of us don't really even recognize on a daily basis because we don't often drive by it. Now, when people come to our community and want to build things, we can't just say, we don't do that, go away. We have to create the type of dialogue that you all have had with things like the Playhouse building. I know you didn't like the first version or the first 10 versions that came out, but we stayed on them. They continued to come back and modify. I know you're doing the same thing with the Hyatt piece, with the Macy's property. I know you're doing the same thing with the Parsons property. We have to be able to have a dialogue with those folks and ensure that they come back to us with plans that do better fit our community so that in the end we come up with something progressive, but that very much is something we're all in favor of.
Marcia.
Yes, as a follow-up, many in Pasadena believe that we are losing our cultural and architectural heritage to an invasion of poorly designed, bland developments not suitable to Pasadena's sense of place. City Council is considering changes to the Design Commission and to the design review process in order to expedite it. If you become mayor, what leadership position will you take on this issue? And to that, what 3 things should developers and architects of downtown buildings pay more attention to?
Okay, so 2-part question, one being your position on the proposed changes to the Design Commission, and the second part being the 3 things that developers and architects of downtown buildings should pay more attention to. Mr. Thompson.
It's good that you didn't ask a very difficult question. I think the proposed changes to the Design Commission, like everything else, need to be really evaluated by the entire public. And there will be open public hearings about that, but let's not rush into it and take a position before we've had the chance to go through that evaluation. So it's nice to say, well, we're going to modify a commission that's going to address the problems. Maybe it will, but history suggests oftentimes that's really not what happens. 3 things to do to make us more friendly. Number 1, I would start with some of our city staff. I think it was mentioned earlier. Oftentimes you go in there with your real estate agent or just an ordinary citizen and you ask questions, you're going to get a very unpleasant response or answer. So let's begin with that. But again, let's make ourselves more transparent. Let's have open processes, not have things go on behind closed doors, and then come out and announce it that this has happened.
Ms. Robinson.
So,
would it help if I repeated?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I know it's a multi-part essay question. Okay, so the background being cultural and architectural heritage at risk because of an invasion of poorly designed bland developments. And we are now looking at some consideration of changes to the Design Commission. Council is looking at that, and the design review process in order to expedite things. So part 1, if you become mayor, what's your position? What's your leadership there? And part 2, what 3 things should developers and architects of downtown buildings pay more attention to?
So speaking to the first part of the question, the City Council, I believe the City Council did the right thing when it sent the staff recommendation back to work on it some more. We have a lot of rules and regulations in the city, especially as it relates to planning. And I think the discussion that we had at the City Council with regard to trying to find a happy medium between making sure that all the rules are clear for developers and getting them through the process in a way that allows community input in a substantive way was the right way to go. I believe that having skilled community members that are already in the fields of architecture and design be members of the Design Commission was a good one. One of the things that we were grappling with is how many. One of the things that I also agree with individually was the presence of the art commissioner on the Design Commission. We know in our city that public art is something that is cherished, and I do think we have to keep that in mind, especially as it relates to projects that are going to require a public art component as far as the 3 things that developers and architects should pay attention to.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to be the bad guy. I just really hate this role. But
No worries.
okay. Thank you. Mr. Harden.
As mayor, I would work closely with the Design Commission, the people of Pasadena and City Council to create a set of guidelines that all developers would have to adhere to. And I would not let that change just to expedite a process. I believe that a lot of mistakes are done in haste. So I would stand to those guidelines that we set that everybody had input on. 3 suggestions I would give to developers and architects would be to consider the surroundings you're moving into. Look at the surrounding areas. How can you enhance the area, not without considering just what you're trying to accomplish? How can you weave what you're trying to bring into the fabric that's already there? I would also consider the design structures of the surrounding buildings. What does it look like already, and how will you add to that? And that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Shea.
Thank you. I think David Wolf laid out a very good exhibit outside in which he referred to my city. And in that, he set forth the exemplary that we've already established here in Pasadena, starting with the reviving the Dean Damon's approach to what we should do and how we should look to keep our city as we know it, and that is an exemplary city. I think it adds value to how we have a social link to it. That's why we're all proud to be Pasadenians, and that's why we make the investments that we do here. And last but not least, it definitely cleans house by keeping everyone informed if we follow a certain standard that we've been accustomed to keep our city unique, wonderful, and that we're all proud to be Pasadenians.
Mr. Morgan?
I think the simple answer is we sick your board on them, right, to ensure design review. That's probably not easy to codify, but I think, clearly we have huge design review needs, and we have experts in this community who I think are very good at that. But I think what the mayor needs to do is say to any builder, we are a city that is eager to build the best. And if you do that, then you should come here and you should work with us to design something that is the best. That is what we deserve as a community. And the right builders are going to take that challenge and like that idea. The things they should be looking at are quality, obviously, connection to the character of our city. That's number 2. And then I like the idea of sort of making sure that anything that's built doesn't have sort of a front of house and back of house, so we're not walling off parts of our community. I know that's the big criticism with the Parsons project, is that it sort of becomes this internal facing project that just cuts off anyone driving by it. And we need to avoid that and make sure that anything we build is being integrated into a larger effort.
Mr. Tornick?
I think there should be virtually no change to the Design Commission. I think it's working very well. We just received their annual report. I was delighted with the outcome, and I wouldn't sustain any big changes there. In terms of design, I think that Mr. Harden got it exactly right. The buildings need to be contextually appropriate. They need to look like they belong in the city and they haven't just dropped in here from another planet. We've got some of those, and we've got one on Los Robles right now that has led to me asking for a new ordinance with regard to mansionization, because it's an outrage and it damages the values of all the properties around it. I think that new buildings have to be environmentally sustainable. We have certain requirements. There are state laws that relate to what they call LEED standards and sustainability. I think it's absolutely vital that we go beyond just the minimum requirements in terms of sustainability. And I think the buildings have to be importantly pedestrian-oriented. Those would be the change, the 3 major things.
All right. Thank you all. And actually, the LEED building certification mention is a perfect transition to Chris Cunningham here, who has a couple questions around sustainability issues.
Thank you, candidates, for being here tonight. My first question on sustainability is actually a 2-part question. What role does a higher density neighborhood like downtown Pasadena play in furthering the city's environmental goals? And how do you feel downtown Pasadena can further help reduce the carbon footprint of the city?
All right, Ms. Robinson.
This is a 1-minute question.
I know.
30 seconds a half.
I'm sorry. Keep losing my train of thought. So I believe that first of all, let me say, I believe the general plan, the growth that we see south of the 210 freeway is something that we planned for in the city through the general plan, and what's happening now was supposed to happen. This is where the higher density was supposed to be around the transit corridors. I do believe that at this point we're at a point of near overdevelopment south of the freeway, and so as mayor, one of the things that I plan to do is to concentrate on an across-the-board effort to look at not just development, but also other issues as they affect north of the 210 freeway. I'm sorry, can you repeat the second part of the
Yes, and how do you feel downtown Pasadena can further help reduce the carbon footprint of the city?
Well, I think downtown Pasadena can help reduce the carbon footprint by, number one, because this is where the additional development is happening, encouraging more stringent development standards as it relates to the additional infrastructure needs that are going to be needed by all of the new developments going in. Perhaps instituting some type of fee that will help to offset the additional infrastructure and services that are going to be needed throughout the city in order to sustain the additional growth in population, and then also encouraging those that live here to take the first step since they're closer to the transit corridors and closer to, you know, everyday uses that they can walk to encourage them to get out of their cars as a first step.
Great, thank you. Mr. Harden.
Yes, could you repeat the entire question again, please?
That's a long question.
What role does a higher density neighborhood like downtown play in furthering the city's environmental goals? And how do you feel downtown can further help reduce the carbon footprint of the city?
I think a high density population, it helps because it adds resources. And with those resources, we can do studying. With the resources, we can actually explore other ways to improve our environment. How they can help with the carbon footprint, I believe that you guys are already doing that with the complete streets and with the effort you guys take to create greener, cleaner methods of transportation and walkability and livability in downtown. So I believe that you guys are taking the steps already to create that improvement.
Great. Mr. Shea.
Well, as to the density issue, I think it has been established by your exhibits that by creating more density, we're creating the urban centers that we are trying to develop as a result of our population growth. And that's something that obviously we want to balance out with where we're going to do it, and of course the impact it's going to have on the residents. I think as to the concern of the impact with carbon and the traffic, we truly need to identify a transportation system that's going to be effective with more people coming in. Certainly with my office on Lake and Cordova, I see it all day, all the time. And I think you certainly have demonstrated that with the trail car or the cart being used to transport people on Green and on Cordova. I think that'll add value to it. So I think we have to look at other ones. We can look at Dash to bring people into the area and reduce the traffic that will be put into these areas.
Mr. Morgan.
I think the opportunity for downtown is to do exactly what you were showing in the other room, which is really pilot, which is what many of those projects were, really pilot the best of what cities should be doing, which is what Pasadena should be doing in all phases of what our efforts as a city. And you're doing that around things like transit, obviously, pedestrian-friendly streets, bike safety, being able to ride a bike safely with separated lanes, things like that. I mean, this is what downtown, because there is a kind of a concentration right now of some movement around here, this is your opportunity to really, your gift to all of us is to be piloting that. In terms of the second piece, clearly on the LEED side, builders know what it takes to become LEED certified. It's harder with some of our older buildings. I'd love to, the mayor's job, of course, is to take the LEED certified buildings that we do have, or the new ones that we will have, and promote that as a real benefit to living and working in Pasadena. We also have pretty good technology developers in Caltech and Arts Center. I'd love to see what they could do around this so that we continue to bring the best of their innovations to our new buildings and new efforts going forward.
Mr. Tornick?
So one of the questions that I get asked all the time as I move around the city is, if we have a water shortage, how is it that you're allowing all these big new multifamily projects to get built? It's counterintuitive. I mean, why are you encouraging that kind of environmental demand? And so there's a fundamental misunderstanding about that, because in fact, the recognition that the state laws that have been promulgated recognize that there will be additional population. I've got grandchildren, they need a place to live. So there's going to be population growth, and the way to have sustainable growth is to do it in terms of some of these higher density projects. They're not a threat, they're an opportunity. So density can in fact translate to sustainability. It's not an anti-sustainable thing, but it's not an easy concept to understand. And I think that the other thing that it does is in terms of air quality, reducing the carbon footprint, reducing vehicle trips and vehicle miles traveled, it's pretty easy to understand that, I hope, that having some areas of density will in fact enhance environmental sustainability for the rest of us, as long as we understand that this continues to be a growing environment.
Mr. Thompson?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is to look at projects like the proposed Hyatt Place Hotel. Instead of abiding by the 5-foot setback, they're asking for, and apparently have received initial approval of a 75-foot setback. That makes no sense, because if we're going to have density and sustainability, it has to comply with what we've set up as our criteria for projects of that nature. If you look at New York City, for example, it's very walkable, but yet they've got very, very high density places for people to live. There's nothing wrong with that. The two can go together very, very nicely. But I think by having, we've got the shuttle buses that run around the different parts of our downtown area. We can encourage more use of that. I think we can work with our developers who come in and really focus on them to make it more pedestrian friendly. Not necessarily bicycle friendly, but that might be a part of it as well.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
All right, thank you. On a more personal note now, everyone says they're in favor of a sustainable environment, but here's another two-parter so we can better understand your position. What have you done personally in the past 3 years to reduce your carbon footprint, and how have you reduced your water consumption since the drought was officially declared last year?
Mr. Harden?
Well, repeat the question one more time.
I'll just give you the what have you done personally in the past 3 years to reduce your carbon footprint, and what have you reduced your how have you reduced your water consumption since the drought was declared?
Okay, that's great. In regards to the first part of the question, like I said, I'm a big favor of public transportation. I use Gold Line, I walk, I take the bus still. I use Uber, and I use a lot of other things, like I said, Lyft, Uber, and I embrace all these means of public transportation because they do a great job, and they do work, and it's better than traffic, it's better than looking for parking, it's better than gas prices, even though they're low right now. In regards to water consumption, I don't wash clothes until after the sun goes down. I don't water the lawn as much as probably I should, and also I support the initiatives of pulling up the lawns and creating California-friendly plants, and as well as the renovations they made to the Brookside Golf Course. I'm in favor of all of that to help save water in our city.
All right. Mr. Shea.
Thank you. What I've done is, as a former athlete, I know how important it is to work out. I walk to everywhere around my place of business instead of drive. And being on South Lake, we have a lot of businesses and eateries and other things, banks. So I make sure that anything within a mile radius, I walk. I also jog and walk in my neighborhood in the 4th District to work out, to make sure my health is intact. And I believe that contributes to not only my health, but it also reduce emission, and also adds to our community. What I believe, what was the second part of the question? Let me make sure I get that clear.
Water consumption.
Water consumption, oh, definitely. Well, I live over a golf course, so I make sure that when I hear their water go on, I shut mine off. And so as a result, I water my lawn once a week at the maximum. I'm very conscious of it because, one, we really must raise our awareness of water conservation, and I believe everything we need to do to be a better community is about educating. We must be educated about it, conscious-minded, and apply it. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Morgan.
I think my family, probably like a lot of others, you know, I think we could all do more. It's often an expensive transition. You know, we switched to a tankless water heater. We water once a week. That's actually the law now. So, yeah, we follow that. We've got 4 kids, so this is a tough one. But you know, my wife hates this, but we don't flush the toilet after. You know, if it's yellow, let it mellow, right? So. With 4 kids, that doesn't last very long, but nonetheless. Sorry, yes, thank you. Well, I was going to answer that I quit using ice cubes in my cocktails, but I thought that may be inappropriate. So, so we've tried to, you know, we're trying to educate our kids, you know, and I think that they're the ones who are going to continue to do better. We're trying to tinker around the margins, but we also looked at, you know, putting solar on our roof, and we looked at some other approaches that are very costly, and so we're trying to figure out how to make correct investments in those things in light of our own family budgets, just like all of you.
Mr. Tornick?
So we did make the investment in solar on the roof. And the major thing I've done is to move my district office around the corner to Pete's so that, so that I can have all my meetings at Pete's and not have to get in the car. In terms of water conservation, we already had no lawn, and we have drip irrigation for the bushes that we have. But what I did do was publish I did the photographs and the narrative and published a brochure of successful neighborhood examples of xeriscape, so that people could understand it wasn't not necessarily a city mandate, but this is what people in the neighborhood have done to reduce their water consumption, since 70% of most people's summertime single-family water usage is poured on the lawn. And by doing these little walking tours in this brochure, I thought I could entice and educate people into seeing that beautiful lawn doesn't have to be something that looks like it came from Sussex, and that we could do a lot better.
Mr. Thompson?
Well, one thing that Carol and I do a lot is walking, and that is certainly a big step forward in terms of reducing carbon emission. I also, about a year ago, I guess it was, changed my car to a diesel. Now that sounds like going back in years, that'd be a horrible thing to do, but the increase in fuel consumption is phenomenal. I can go twice as far now on a tank of diesel as I did in a tank of gasoline, so that's helpful too. In terms of water conservation, we try to cut back on the times of the week that we water our yard, the number of times and that type of thing, back to basically one time. And the time at which you do it also is important to do that. We also utilize California plants, use a lot of bark and things like that, and try to be selective and conscientious as to how we go about doing this. But it's an ongoing challenge. I mean, if you use more water, you pay more money to the city of Pasadena, so you have your choice. You either cut back on usage of it or pay more money to the city.
Ms. Robinson?
So, in addition to my service on the City Council, I work full-time at Los Angeles Unified School District as Education Policy Director to one of the board members. And so my job is very much field-based, so I end up being in my car a lot. But that said, on the days when I know that I can be stationary and just stay downtown, I have made an extra effort to take the Gold Line when I know that I don't have to be out and about. I am single, and I am an apartment dweller, and I am not home a lot, so I'm pretty confident that my water consumption is very light, since I only see my house in the morning and very late at night. But that said, I am a fan of rideshare services as well, and one of the things that I've done to encourage constituents in my district to get walking is, again, passing the Lincoln Avenue specific plan, which has generated interest along the Lincoln Avenue corridor. We now have, businesses that people can walk to and eat in the morning time. And as I've been in there patronizing the new restaurant, people have told me that they live around the corner and they walked here, and so the plan is working.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to introduce Board Member Marilyn Buchanan. Marilyn has a couple of questions around economic vitality.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. What, in your opinion, are the economic opportunities and challenges in the Central District? Please address each district separately. Old Pasadena, not Old Town, the Playhouse District, and South Lake.
Can we do that one more time?
Economic opportunities and challenges in each of the 3 districts.
Right.
Yes.
And that'd be Mr. Shea up first.
Sorry.
She indicated Old Pasadena.
It's Old Pasadena, yes.
Right, Old Pasadena, the
not
Playhouse
Old Town,
District.
because you'd be talking about Monrovia or San Diego or someplace else. I want to keep it in this city. What, in your opinion, are the economic opportunities and challenges in the Central District? And that would be by each of the separate districts.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with my own district and my own business concerns. I'm in South Lake, and I've been there 30 years, and I know that the opportunities that are there is if we can create the appropriate businesses, small businesses, sustainable businesses to stay there. We need to do that. It will add value, it will add a convenience for South Lake and the residents around there, and focus in on initiatives that will keep those businesses around. As to Old Pasadena, I would have to focus in on Paseo. Paseo needs to be identified as another project that we have to focus, keep businesses there. I was actively involved with Trizon Han, who had the Old Pasadena Mall to bring forth this new opportunity with Paseo, and we still didn't get it right. We need to get it right. Last but not least, the Playhouse District. They are doing a wonderful job in bringing it up to today's current usage and needs. We've seen it elevate the last 3 years. We've done a wonderful job there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Well, I think, part of the economic opportunity in all 3 is to maybe not look at them as 3 totally separate entities, but to really look at how, as an integrated whole, they work together. In all 3 cases, it's about the types of businesses that we're talking about, right? So, in Old Pasadena, I think it's not good enough to fill every vacant property, but it's to fill them with the types of businesses that we want to really, bring people down there, get them to walk around and spend time down there more often than just the holidays. The Playhouse District, I think, has felt isolated for a long time, but as we pull in South Lake and the Playhouse District into Old Pasadena, I think we have the opportunity to do some really neat things, and you're already starting to see some of that, certainly with some of the new restaurants that have been opening. I think clarity on what we're trying to do makes a lot of sense. In South Lake, when we moved in, it was all children's stores, and we happened to have little kids at the time, and so you went there for a reason. Now it's all over the place. Why do you go there other than Pete's, right? So I think some clarity on what we're trying to accomplish down the whole street would be helpful.
Mr. Tornick.
South Lake is making a transition from retail to restaurant and entertainment. And I think the challenge there has to do with the pattern of land ownership and some of the parking challenges. But I think it's not an insurmountable problem because of the adjacencies of Caltech and affluent residential neighborhood. The Playhouse District is emerging as really a wonderful blend of residential and entertainment uses. And I think that if we've got some parking problems there as well that we're working on. I meet with the Playhouse District every month, and I think that has great opportunity and is enjoying some real success. Old Pasadena is continuing to make yet another transition. When I came to Pasadena as planning director, I was hired specifically to work on Old Pasadena, and along with Marcia Rood, I think we had some success. It's making a transition now again. It moved from the mom and pop to the chains. Now with the development of all the surrounding residential, I think we're going to see another transition in Old Pasadena. And with the ultimate construction of the Parsons project, I think that will contribute to the continued evolution of the Old Pasadena district.
Mr. Thompson.
Well, in terms of economic challenges and opportunities, if we take South Lake Avenue first, as I said before, you're seeing a transition from the mom and pops, the small stores, the Atkinsons, and other such clothing stores, long gone. And now, to some extent, the chains are coming in, restaurants are coming in. I think the thing there is that there are a lot of landlords down there who are not the original landlords, perhaps siblings, and received them. They have no personal investment. So I think it's imperative to try to work with them to be realistic and to help make their stores, the vacancies, go away. Retail would be great to bring down there. That's a real challenge, though, because of Nordstrom's being out in Arcadia, in Glendale, et cetera, and that type of thing. So Old Pasadena, again, we've done a lot of really good things there. We've made the One Colorado project exist, keeping the exteriors, letting a developer change the interior so that we got Ilfanayo and a number of other places, J. Crew, et cetera there, Patagonia, that are there and doing very nicely. The Playhouse District, as said, is undergoing a nice transition. Again, that's something back years ago was non-existent. We had to work on. We worked on it. We helped it get going. Today it is what it is.
All right, thank you. Ms. Robinson.
So when we talk about the economic challenges of all three of the districts, I believe all three of them have more than their fair share of vacancies right now, and that's something that we have to address. And that's something that I know all three of the directors for the business associations are working very hard to correct and encourage businesses to come here in Pasadena. Again, when we talk about economic development, I believe we have to talk about it all, and especially in Old Pasadena, because there's a number of the restaurants that I personally patronize and have gotten to know the owners. I think we have to talk about Old Pasadena in terms of its daytime population and its nighttime weekend population. And Pasadena is a changing city. Our population is changing. We have a growing young adult population, young professionals population, and in large part, when I talk to my counterparts, people are still going to downtown. They should be going to Old Pasadena, especially if they live here. But again, that has to do with things like, you know, over-policing of the area on Friday and Saturday nights, over-ticketing for people that are, you know, parked 1 minute over the time limit. That discourages them from coming back.
Thank you. Mr. Harden.
In regards to Old Town, I believe the opportunities lie in that Gold Line. Old Town has most of the Gold Line stations that are in Pasadena in Old Town. So I believe that there's a lot of opportunity in there in regards to people from downtown LA and even further coming in to take advantage of our retail stores and just the amenities that we serve. I think parking is a challenge in all the areas, particularly the Playhouse District. In regards to opportunities of the Playhouse District, I believe the new development is going to bring a lot of opportunities, a lot of new jobs, and a lot of new stores and pretty shiny things to the neighborhood. And as well as the South Pasadena, South Lake, I think the challenge is connectivity. I think it's a vibrant place, but I think there's a lot of Pasadenans who do not drive that far down lake for whatever reason. So I do appreciate the Pasadena passages, and I think that would kind of address the connectivity of South Lake.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, excuse me, what do you see as the most effective tools that the city could use to cultivate an environment of vibrant businesses in the downtown?
Mr. Morgan.
What do you see as the most effective tools that the city could use to cultivate an environment for vibrant businesses?
Again, I think it's another good one because it really clearly defines what the mayor's job is. I mean, in addition to engaging the community and the types of businesses we want, you know, the mayor should be a chief promoter for our city, go out and get investment and bring them here. We have all of the ingredients, all of the institutions here in our borders already to really provide the ultimate, I think, concentration of really great places for a great location for people to find good return on their investment. The mayor should be going out and bringing that bringing those folks to Pasadena to invest in our businesses, bringing the best out of what we have at Arts Center and JPL and Caltech, the innovation coming out of those. Clearly is a huge opportunity. I mentioned South Lake, South Arroyo, and South Arroyo, South Fair Oaks, and South Raymond earlier. You know, I think there's some opportunity to pump better infrastructure around internet or wireless and internet so that we can concentrate all those folks in one place and create an identity around it.
Mr. Tornick.
The city has developed a reputation in some quarters as not being business friendly. And while I don't think that that's entirely fair, we have undertaken some pretty careful analysis of the planning, building departments, permitting departments. And there was a study done by a consultant called the Matrix Company that found more than 250 deficiencies, things that should be corrected. And some of those are underway. But I do think that we have to do a lot better. We've had kind of a rotating cast of people moving around in the departments. We've had some tenure difficulties and some people that should be replaced. But I think that our reputation has suffered, and I think we are embarking on trying to do a better job. And there needs to be clear focus on dispelling the notion that Pasadena does not want new business or encourage new business. So that is a clear priority for me.
Mr. Thompson.
I think one of the major challenges we face are looking at Santa Anita in Arcadia, looking at the Americana, looking at the Grove over in Glendale and West Los Angeles. Those are very attractive places to go. You go there, you've got all the storage you could possibly want. A number of years ago, when I was on the council, along with business representatives of Pasadena and also city officials, I actually went to Seattle, met with the Nordstrom's executives to try to persuade them to open a store in Pasadena. At the time, they said that only one place they wanted to go, that was the southwest corner of South Lake and Del Mar, which then was a vacant lot. They said, if you'll build a building for us, let us use it without charge, we'll come there. We couldn't quite meet that demand. And I'm not suggesting we do that, but I think the point of it is that as the mayor and others, you have to recognize opportunities and needs, try to bring people together and go after them. You're not always going to be successful, but you have to have that style of leadership, and that's what I would like to do again if I'm fortunate enough to be elected as the next mayor to replace Bill Bogaard.
Ms. Robinson.
So the mayor has to be an ambassador for all of our business districts, not just our more prominent ones. The mayor has to be interested in growing the other business districts in the city, like the Lincoln Avenue corridor, like the North Lake Business corridor, like the East Washington Hill corridor. We also have to improve the operations of the planning department. Councilmember Tornick, Mr. Tornick, alluded to the study that the city council and the city manager instituted, and we are in the midst of improving some of those operations. But as I've personally seen time and time again in meeting with developers to try to get them interested in the Lincoln Avenue corridor, one of the challenges that I've had is, one, for the businesses that are currently there, I want them to be able to tell others that I'm trying to interest in the corridor that, you know, they had a good experience with our planning department, that it wasn't a headache. And so the city council needs to make improving the operations of the planning department a priority, and I think we've started on that road.
Mr. Harden.
I believe in tapping into the brand power of Pasadena. Pasadena has such a strong brand, and if we as a city and as local businesses can tap into that, we can do a lot more. Pasadena is known all over the world. We have we're only 23 square miles, but we have 7 sister cities around the world. There is a demand for Pasadena products and services. We just have to tap into that. As mayor, I would focus on our brand power, and I would use our influence more, as well as create initiatives to hold workshops for local businesses and teach them how to tap into that brand power as well. They can offer more products around the world if they just knew how. And I think that us being Pasadena, we do have leverage in all those areas, and there is no reason why our businesses do not excel.
Mr. Shea.
I think as mayor of Pasadena, we have a tremendous opportunity. We have a tremendous opportunity because we can bring businesses to Pasadena if we make this city a small business friendly city and encourage that through incentives, through partnerships, through job opportunities, developing scale wages in which we can utilize our youth as well as those that are adults with families. All these things can be done here in Pasadena, and we can show that we are truly a model city, that we can step forward and make those things happen. But without the leadership and people who can see that, and I'm speaking from someone who's an entrepreneur for 35 years, these are the creative things that we can take and move forward with this city if the vision is there and it is truly available to us with our resources, with what we've already established, with the vacancies we have now. I've studied 30 years of this cycle. We need something that creates sustainability.
Okay. Little awkward for me, but I'm going to just improvise with the group if you guys think this is okay. The service promise was we would wrap this up by 8:30 and then have a mixer. And everybody's working really hard and it's long. I don't want to not have the additional questions, but I'm wondering if we could treat the next 2 sets of questions as like a lightning round. Oh, yeah.
Do we get to vote on that?
Well, sure. Is this... so Wes, can we try to where's Wes? This is actually going to, oh, there's Wes. I was going to say this is going to fix half the problem right there. All right, so lightning round on this, real quick. These are good questions that I think can be answered crisply. Let's try for that.
Okay, so we're going to turn our attention away from downtown for a moment and ask you a little bit about the district in which you live. What street in your district is greatest in need of a complete streets overhaul? And to refresh everyone's memory, complete streets refers to this concept of designing streets that accommodate all road users, pedestrians, transit users, people on bicycles, and motorists.
Okay, so top of mind, what's a complete street candidate in your district, and what would you change? Mr. Tornick.
Colorado Boulevard. And I think the proposals that relate to the parklets that have been depicted out there and some of the other discussions that relate to it would go a long way toward making it a more pedestrian-friendly environment.
Okay, great. Mr. Thompson.
I think South Lake Avenue provides a perfect opportunity to do something like this because you don't need to drive a car down there 35, 40 miles an hour. You can walk down, up and down. I think if we work with the neighborhood, work with the South Lake business people and the owners particularly, we can make that happen. But I think without doing something like that, it's not going to occur. And again, it's good to have the vision. We got to have the vision, but we also have to have the leadership ability to put that vision to work and make it happen.
All right, Ms. Robinson.
Lincoln Avenue corridor, and we're already starting to take steps to improve the walkability of the corridor. It has tremendous opportunity because it is surrounded on all 4 sides by single-family homes and apartments. And I've been of the belief that if there were many destinations there, people would definitely walk to them. So that was one of the inspirations for the Lincoln Avenue specific plan.
Mr. Harden.
Many of them, but if I had to pick one, it would be the North Lake area. I believe that the complete streets overhaul would just totally revitalize the area. It's already vibrant, there's already a lot of traffic, but it's just unattractive and it's just not up to code or up to the standards of Pasadena, and it's forgotten about. And I believe that North Lake would be in desperate need of a complete streets overhaul.
Mr. Shea.
I certainly believe South Lake would be a great opportunity for that to evolve. And the reason why I say that is because as I walk the street, I do not see anyone on bicycles in that area. For those who walk, it's great to see all of the stores and everything else that can be there that we can create, and I think that's a great avenue for that. I think more than anything, by creating the parklet effect, you can also reduce the traffic because you can make it a more warming, inviting area over there and add to the businesses and build up a new way of life. I think they've tested it up in San Francisco. It worked. We tried here once every year with the parklet effect. And I think if we can get the leadership in place, we can make it work.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, in my immediate neighborhood, I would say South Lake as well. I mean, clearly, you know, if you walk on South Lake, you don't cross the street, or if you do, you have to bring a passport, right? I mean, it's not easy to do. You know, so I think smoothing some of that, making it easier to go back and forth. You know, it's impossible to ride a bicycle on South Lake. We already have one-way streets on either side, you know, that I think allow us to smooth some of the traffic on South Lake, which makes sense already. So we've already got it in place. And it's a huge, you know, we have the infrastructure there. And I think it would probably bring the types of businesses all of us were saying we need in an area like South Lake if it was easier for people to walk around and enjoy it.
All right, great. Wes.
All right, super quick. This is an easy one. When was the last time you took public transit, walked in the city more than 4 blocks, and rode a bicycle?
And actually, since they're all walking, all their districts, maybe we'll stop the walking.
Okay, so when was the last time you took public transit in the city and rode a bicycle? And let us know where you went and what was your experience.
Great, thanks. Where are we? Mr. Thompson.
I don't ride a bicycle, for sure. Or haven't for many years. I do walk, and as my wife and I walk every morning, we walk up to South Lake and all that. I don't take public transportation in Pasadena. My work is in downtown Los Angeles, so I don't have any reason to take public transportation in Pasadena.
Okay, Ms. Robinson.
I drove to the Del Mar station and took the GO line to a Chinese restaurant downtown. And the last time I walked more than 4 blocks was for New Year's Day for the football game.
There you go. Mr. Harden.
I'll probably take in public transportation yesterday. Like I said, I use it often. It's very helpful. It's clean, it's friendly, and I will go just like this. You know, it's not beneath me, and I do encourage others to use it. As for my bike, I do have a bike. I don't ride it often because I live on a slope, and I hate riding uphill. But it was at least a couple years ago. So.
All right, Mr. Shea.
Well, as a realtor, I definitely need my vehicle, so I have to defer that I take the public transit, but I do advocate for it because of the parking challenges that we have on South Lake and, of course, in Old Town and with Paseo. But as far as walking, I am the walking machine. I have walked from the tip of Pasadena all the way to the bottom of Pasadena, to the east, to the west, and I will continue to do that to get your vote. Thank you.
Nice.
Mr. Morgan.
We take the train down to USC football games. It's easier in terms of traffic, and it's a lot of fun with the kids. Again, we walk every weekend. We walk to Winchell's from our house so that we don't feel guilty for eating the donuts. That's the payoff. And we ride our bikes all the time in our neighborhood. Our street is flat, Jason, so we can ride our bikes around the neighborhood. And I have a, you know, I have kids, so it's fun.
Mr. Tornick.
Well, I've been walking the city for 16 months, so you're right, it's not that's not a good challenge. But I took the Gold Line downtown for an appointment probably 2 weeks ago, used my tap card. And, I've taken the arts bus, soon to be renamed, to City Hall, although you have to transfer, it's not very convenient. In terms of the bicycle, I think the last significant bike ride I took was with Wes and a group trying to plot safer paths for the bike plan, to develop the bike plan so that it wouldn't generate more injuries than it did good health.
Okay. Barbara Bell has the wrap-up set of questions here. We'll do this quick. We'll be done. You guys are working hard. We appreciate it.
All right, we're down to the last two. No one expects you to know everything already about being mayor of Pasadena, but I'd like to learn, understand more about your ability to grow on the job. Tell us something new that you've learned in the last few months, and tell us why you learned it, and how you like to learn new things.
Okay. Ms. Robinson?
And this is the lightning round, so.
Right, Ms. Robinson. So something new you learned, why did you need to learn it, and how do you generally learn things?
Something new you've learned in the last couple of months, especially.
That's actually a tough one, because I know there's something new that I've learned. Just in general, we all learn new things every day. You know what? I don't have a response for that one right now.
No problem. Mr. Harden.
Well, I think there's nothing that I do faster than learn. Even being here kind of shows that. Within the past few weeks, I've learned so much about the city. I started this with just the problems of my community in mind. And one thing that opened up were all the problems in all the community and how to address them. I've learned about the functions of city council and the way and how useful it is, and how ignorant I was not to use it more in a lot of the things I tried to accomplish in this city. And I learned how to convey that importance to my community.
All right, very good. Mr. Shea.
Well, this is very heavy on my heart because I was arrested in May. And what I learned as a result of my arrest was that anybody can be arrested. We have a broken system that needs adjusting, fixing, and correcting. As a 56-year-old man who's been in business 35 years and have served this community, I love this community. I've been a model citizen for youth, a youth advocate, and through that approach, I've done it because I love Pasadena. I think anybody who runs for mayor has to understand the community and the passion that goes into it to carry us to the next chapter. Without it, we will not have inclusiveness, we will not have follow-through, we will have things as usual. We don't need that. And I believe my testament of picking myself up after being incarcerated for 2 weeks demonstrate my passion and how I am resilient to get back into this role to show the love of Pasadena, what we're made of Pasadena. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
So I've worked with the city manager's office and a lot of the staff on the city manager's office through my job at USC for a long time, and I thought I knew the full, and a lot of our nonprofits here in town, I thought I knew the full depth of our engagement as a community. But I tell people all the time running for mayor, if you want to really appreciate your city, run for mayor. You get to see the best of what we do. I've learned that, you know, we have countless people who are so passionate about the incredible work that they're doing, which unfortunately not all of us are as aware of as we should be. I'm fortunate, I get paid for a living to learn as a professor, wearing one of my hats, so, you know, so I very much enjoy continuing to engage with graduate students who are going out to save the world for a living. And lastly, I've been working in Watts for the last 11 years in Nickerson Gardens, And so for me to drive from Pasadena, from the incredible community where I live, to go down to Watts, I learned very quickly that I wasn't going to go down with solutions. What I was going to go down there to do was to listen and to figure out how to provide resources so that together we could make some progress down there. I think the same things apply here, and obviously that's what's made Mayor Bogaard so good, is his ability to go to any community in Pasadena and engage them in a conversation so that we can work together to solve problems.
Thank you. Mr. Tornick.
I think the newest piece of business that I've been about is learning how to be a teacher. I've started being an adjunct professor at USC, and I've been teaching real estate entitlement at the graduate level in the master's program, master's of real estate program. And the thing that it's taught me, I mean, this is a process I've been involved in most of my adult life as a professional planner and as a real estate professional. But having to explain the process and the rationale behind the process, and even the language that we use, which is like teaching a foreign language to a bunch of people who are aspiring real estate professionals, has really put all of this sort of bureaucratic stuff and incredibly complicated political process that we have in Pasadena in context for me, because students ask questions, and they don't just, and they're paying a lot of money for this class, and as you know, and so they don't just accept things at face value, and you've really got to come prepared to answer the questions. And if I don't have what I think is an adequate answer for them, it makes me examine a lot of the basic assumptions that I've been working with for a long time.
Mr. Thompson.
As I said before, in my professional career, I'm an intellectual property litigation attorney, and so for better or for worse, on a daily basis, I learn things, but I won't mention judges by name or opposing counsel by name or things like that, but it keeps me on my toes, to be sure. I also am an elected trustee at Pasadena City College. Certainly the opportunity to be there, to engage with students. We have student trustees. They are outstanding generally and very, very astute, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. So I learned from that. I learned from the administration and more about how to run a community college, and PCC, by the way, is one of the best in the country. So also I work with the Pasadena Educational Foundation and PUSD in that respect, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Brian McDonald, the now superintendent of PUSD. He is a terrific individual from Jamaica originally, 5 children in the public schools here.
Okay, thank you very much. And if you'd like, Ms. Robinson, take another pass, or? Actually,
as I was thinking about it, pertaining to this particular forum, I actually did not know about the passageways and how it started in 1916. And so that was actually a new experience for me, and I'm appreciative of the immense amount of effort that I know went into the research to be able to bring this to the community. And as mayor, it is something that I can get behind, and I think that it should be something that the planning department officially adopts as something to, at the very least, explore.
Okay, thank you, thank you. One final question.
Okay, one wrap-up question, and it's a two-part, but easy. What value can citizen participation and involvement bring to decision-making at City Hall? And how can more participation by citizens be encouraged?
I didn't hear.
Okay, what value?
Into the mic.
What value can citizen participation and involvement bring to decision-making at City Hall? And how can more citizen participation be encouraged?
Starting with Mr. Harden.
The value that citizen participation brings, it's the most important part of decision making. This is a council that represents the people. If there is no citizen participation, then what do we represent? Then we're just here doing what we want to do. I believe that to get more people participating. It takes more people who don't participate to make way, and I believe that I'm one of those folks. There's a lot of people in my community who just doesn't see the system as working at all and not working for them, but I wanted to show them that if you do participate, if you do get involved, things happen. And I know I'm new to running for office, but I'm not new to politics and I'm not new to getting results because of my level of involvement. And I want to relay that to those that are least involved, because those who the decisions affect most. And if we all understand that, it would encourage us to participate a little more in our public forums, in our city council meetings, at public events that have nothing to do with business, that are just recreational. So it does take an example.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, just because everybody's getting this fatigue factor, that I'm gonna be rigid on this last round for the 60 seconds. So forgive me for that, Mr. Shea.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely imperative that we move the next era forward by civic engagement. We've learned from what we've learned 2 weeks ago regarding what happened down at the City Hall, that we need to have full transparency, education, participation, and without those things, we're gonna lose ground. We do not need to lose ground at this point. We need to move forward with the opportunities that exist here in Pasadena. We need to create sustainability. We need to focus on PUSD and make our community a wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
You know, Steve Mermel often jokes that we have citizen participation coming out our ears here in Pasadena, but and he's right, you know, but if we're doing it right, you know, what citizen participation allows us to do is bring all of our individual perspectives and expertise to solve local problems at the local level using local solutions, right? I mean, the way we handle things in Pasadena doesn't always look the way other communities do. But if we're going to encourage more participation, I think people also need to know that their time and their interests and their effort is valued. And I think sometimes we bring citizens in because we have to do citizen participation, and we don't adequately listen and make use of a lot of their expertise. And I think you're right. I mean, I think we have a huge opportunity in particular areas of needs, like you know, the fraud case, where we can bring in people with expertise who can help us address this.
Thank you, Mr. Tornick.
I think that we've got a lot of participation, but it's happening sometimes at the wrong time. It happens on project-specific situations when the projects are too fully developed. And so the kind of participation we get are people complaining and objecting, rightfully, because they weren't involved in the process to begin with. So one of the things in David's work, in this passages that you saw out there that really intrigues me, is to have citizen participation built in, sort of baked into the process from the beginning, so that we don't just sort of roll participation meetings out when it's so far along that people feel it's a fait accompli, but rather it becomes a kind of a citizen-driven process so that they're involved from the beginning, and it shapes the projects before they're so far along that people feel they're just sort of redecorating the windows. So I think Pasadena is committed to participation, but we need to rethink how we plug it in.
Mr. Thompson.
Well, citizen participation really is the foundation of our democracy. Without that, we're really not going to be much different than any other government throughout the world. And I think one thing about Pasadena, which has always been very, very impressive to me, is that this is a city where the citizens expect to be involved, expect to be able to participate, expect to have the complete information, complete transparency, and be a part of the decision-making process. We benefit from that. Yes, it takes us perhaps a bit longer times to get through things, but at the end, we're a better city and a better community because of it. And so that's the type of Pasadena that we moved here and respected and feel so passionately about, and that's the type of Pasadena that I really want to maintain and to make it an even better city.
Ms. Robinson.
Civic participation and community input is part of the fabric of Pasadena, and we see that in the number of commissions that we have already existing, and I believe we also see it in the number of commissions that the City Council has been asked to add over the years. I think we have to be careful about not just going through the motions and adding commissions because it looks good especially if it can't produce the results that we hope that it does. One of the reasons that I decided to run for mayor is because I believe that our citizens deserve to see themselves reflected in City Hall, not just in the physical form, but also in the values and the policies that come out of City Hall. And I feel all Pasadenans need to see that, not just from certain portions of our community. And so I embrace citizen participation. I do wish that more citizens in our city would choose to get involved, but I believe that we have to have a bigger effort at helping people to see the value of their participation, and we do that by making sure that their ideas and their input are thoroughly considered and implemented into the final conclusions and plans of the issues that we deal with.
All right, well, that concludes this evening's Q&A for the forum. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's interest in the community. You've been super. I really appreciate the intensity with which the DPNA board tackles this. It's an important decision for us, and I appreciate the candidates for enduring a 15 to 20-minute overage here on the original intention. Happy to announce that if you'd like, I understand that they are opening up some wine up at the Gamble Lounge. So there's a mingle opportunity here if you still can stand. And having stood with you here for the last 90 minutes, I feel your pain. So thank you. Thank you.